What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Funcast, episode 26. Our special guest today is the one and only Wumbo Myco, the mushroom breeder, educator, cultivator, and huge part of the community. Thanks for coming on the cast today, bud.
Yeah, no problem, man. Good to be here. Thanks
Heck
for having me
yeah,
on.
man. So what's going on? How's it going? I know last time we saw each other was at the expo.
Yeah, things are going well. I think that as far as genetics goes, I am in a state right now where I have more variety in strains than I know what to do with. And so I'm just really enjoying going through some of my new crosses that are expressing a lot of variation and just trying to find some cool shit in there.
Are these all the genetics that you're talking about? Are these all projects, personal projects of yours, or is it like
Yeah,
just?
personal projects of mine, and I also run other people's stuff sometimes too, just to see fun stuff. Like I've been running the blue albino penis envy revert rust spore from Basidium equilibrium, and it's probably one of the most beautiful strains I've ever run. It's a really gorgeous genetic, but I God 20, 30, something like that crosses that I've done, which are I guess I would say successful in the sense that there was a pairing. And it's just that there's been a lot, a lot of them need a lot of work in order to finish isolation to actually get something unique or something that I feel like is worth actually releasing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that's a good thing to actually go on. At least just talk about a little bit as far as isolating. Right, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to create hybrids that are getting into the actual genetic work and stuff. And you got people out there that are trying to bang out, claiming that they have crosses, and while they might have a successful cross technically, it's like then they're selling it to people, I guess, first gen, still pretty much
Right.
a whole lot of variant.
Right.
Could you go on, like, could you explain what it takes to actually create a hybrid
Yeah,
versus
sure. So when you cross two strains together, whether you're doing monokaryon pairing, dimono pairing, or di pairing, um, what you get as the first generation progeny, the first generation results of that are going to be a little varied. And I guess we would call it unstable, right? And so like with what I'm working on, a project that I'm calling Cardamom, it's a cross of Louisiana Wild and Avery's Albino. So something that's very domestic with something that's pretty wild. And my process is that I cross these two together, I take this result, and I germinate the spores from my first grow of the result, right? I
yeah.
take spores from all the different stuff that I think is interesting, and I will germinate that. And from each spore germination, I like to take like 5 or so transfers and isolate all those until they run as an isolated form. And then I individually test all of those to see if they carry the traits that I selected for. And then from there, I will select the spores again of the ones that have the same traits as the ones that I selected from. So if I have a mushroom that grows big dome cap and I like the big dome cap, the first run, take the spores from it, germinate it, do a pheno hunt through there, and look for all the phenotypical variations. And if I find that big dome cap again through the next spore generation, I'll take the spores of that again, and we'll keep doing this for a few generations until I can start really honing in, until it starts really narrowing down the variety in there and honing in on that trait that I'm looking for. And then we start our clone generations for the most part, and I clone it 2-3 times over each different
Dude,
succession.
I think that's like, first off, I would say it's so awesome to hear that you're going from spore, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people out there, and I feel like it's just like maybe it's just like fad or craze or just like culture transfers, culture this,
Right.
culture that, culture, the culture your mom. You know what I mean? It's like the everybody and their mother's doing like culture work, but then when you talk to them about spore work, they're like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, duh," you know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
that's where all the cool stuff is, right? If you want to find real variation, you got to go back to spore and you got to do a pheno hunt where you take a bunch of transfers and just test it all. Um, but yeah, so that's why I do that. But also because you can actually isolate on the spore level.
that's what
So,
I was gonna go to next. I was like, so
mhm,
there's a whole lot of. I try to tell people when I'm doing, as far as like cultivation, take spores and cultures.
right,
Especially, take the spores of the thing that you want to take a clone of, and
right.
then you should germinate those spores as well as like to grow the culture to see how that goes.
That's
And I try to tell
exactly, yeah,
people, spores hold genetic properties. It's just not as extreme as a culture is.
right. Yes, your tissue culture is going to be a much narrowed down version of the variation of genetics that are available in the spores. But every successive time you take spores from a strain that is being selected for, so this is like you would have to, right. You're looking for dome cap, you take it from dome cap, you would have to find the dome cap again, you take it from that, and that narrows down the variation every time. And I believe after like 3 to 5 generations, something like this, it's varied based on the genetic. But um, after after three, I generally say is the minimum I do. But after that, your genetics should be narrowed down 90%. There's still maybe a 10% variation of what you're experiencing run to run. But yeah, that spore isolation selection is sort of what we do with actual selective breeding, right? Whereas like cloning and cloning and cloning, you're maybe isolating some of those very specific traits from that one clone in those clones, but you're not going back and cementing those traits into the actual spores because the spores are not, you're not taking anything that is,
Yeah.
the spores aren't fusing or it's not, sorry, the nuclei aren't fusing and creating spores and, you're
But
just taking
they
from the tissue.
Dude, so interesting, man. How like what got you into all this? Like what piqued your interest, brother?
I don't know. I've always loved science. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been really bad at traditional methods of learning. I would like not proficient in
Like
high school.
school.
Yeah, and I flunked out of college for a long time and just had a lot of trouble learning there. Um, but what I found was that there were a lot of people who were smarter than me on Instagram and on places like YouTube and stuff, and that they were able to sort of inspire a little, or I would say I got an inspiration from growing gourmet mushrooms. And then I think those other people who were smarter than me, able to provide context for my questions and things like that, they cultivated that inspiration and then allowed me to sort of hone it in on something that I felt like I was good at.
Shout out to Wumbo with the low key I'm smart flex. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, dude. You're a genius, man.
No,
You're a
I
genius.
do think I'm fairly average. I just have a specified set of skills which are good for memorizing this kind of stuff, just this kind of stuff. And when it
You
comes to
guys
other
have
stuff, I'm
communication.
not that
You
smart.
got a very specific set of skills.
Exactly. Jason Staten for sure. But yeah, and what really inspired me to start breeding was honestly the way I was learning was I was just reading research papers and asking people about what they have heard of and stuff like this. And so I was working at a mushroom company growing gourmet mushrooms, and I was talking to a coworker, and they started mentioning the whole snake venom thing, right? And they're like, "Did you see? I think it was Roger Rabbit. He did the snake venom,
Yeah.
or right?"
For other
And
people who are listening who don't know about the snake venom, could we like just
yeah, so there was and I do believe this is something that he did do. I do not recommend anybody does this. But that he used a rattlesnake or some sort of snake venom in order to lyse the cell wall. So like
yeah, it like softened up
get
the
rid of
cell
the
walls to make
yeah.
it easier for this
It's
cell germination. I think.
it's almost like a brute force approach to what you would call protoplast fusion, where you do the same thing, where you use chemicals to remove the cell wall from the fungal
From the
cells,
sport,
and then you
yeah.
pair them together. And And so the reason I don't recommend people do this is because obviously the venom is not super uh, food safe, and
Yeah,
bad
and
things
it's
can
also
happen,
really expensive, snake
and
venom.
expensive. And you don't have to do that, right? Um,
Happy
there are a lot of
420,
other
by the
things.
way.
Oh, happy 420. Yeah,
East Coast 420, guys.
there you go. But yeah, so the snake venom was something that I originally heard about as a way to be able to breed two different types of mushrooms together. Um, and from there, I started learning more about how to actually breed mushrooms, and that's how I learned serial dilution. Well, I serial dilution was sort of at the same time. I learned that at the mushroom facility because we were testing microbiologicals. So we would run all the nutraceutical powder that was created. You would blend up all your dried mushroom powders and put it in a bucket and label it and all this, and then you would take 100 grams and you would dilute it,
Okay,
and you would take
yeah.
this dilute solution, you would put it on a film and test it for staph bacteria and E.
Ah, that's
coli and
cool.
things that are hazardous to human health, metals, stuff like this, right?
So you learned serial
Um,
dilution like in a completely different aspect, and
totally,
then turned
yeah,
that into with that skill you use that in your mycology work.
absolutely, in a
Wow,
totally
that's
different
impressive,
context, yeah.
man.
Um, but yeah, and so once I started looking into how to traditionally breed mushrooms, I came across serial dilution in terms of isolating spores, right? And so that's how I started doing it. Was um, I started by isolating spores and plating them and checking for clamp connections to see if they're monokaryotic, and then trying to pair them together. It's a long process, but yeah, it's if you can isolate a single spore that has half the genetic DNA necessary to create a mushroom, and then you take that and you take another one from another strain and you pair them together, and hopefully you pair a lot of them together because it's not always successful, and then you look at the mycelium as they touch. If they if they start to grow apart, sort of, you'll see like some of them will just like not grow in. It'll
Yeah,
sort of curl and
and
just
it'll like fan out,
yeah. And it's
pop out a
called
little like pup, so to speak.
yeah yeah. They call it a barrier of incompatibility, I think. I don't know, but I can't exactly remember. But yeah, this it's just a zone of incompatibility. And I believe I can't remember exactly. But I believe it's based on one of the forms of incompatibility. I think the pheromonal form of
Interesting.
of
Yeah, so
compatibility.
it's like that's as far as that's concerned, have you noticed? Is there like any specific kind of in your experience, are there like mushrooms that what is compatible and what's not compatible? And I guess like
Yeah.
in the sense of like, so say you were to get two single spore, two individual single
Hmm.
spore germinations, and you let that
Hmm.
grow out on a plate,
Hmm.
and then and then you do like a bunch of different plates of that. So
Right.
does that matter? Like would that like what I'm asking is like if it's incompatible, would it be incompatible throughout the whole
Yeah.
plates of that
Yeah.
entire?
So both of those mycelia will need to they will need to be compatible on a pheromonal level and on an allelic level. So they have two alleles in which, if they match up, they will or
Mate.
two sites for alleles.
Like mate at that
I'm
point.
not as perfect with the terminology.
I
I
mean,
do
we're
apologize, but
all at the end of the
um,
day, we're all freaking we all learned how to do this in a closet. So
yeah.
it's like and that
But if they find that they're compatible on both of these levels, then they will
that's
mate.
cool. That's
The
cool.
two haploid cells will fuse, create a dikaryotic cell, and then that will be able to form a mushroom. But the pheromonal form of compatibility is, I believe, what's happening there because they're not even touching, right? So there's no way for them to have a
Have
genetic
you ever
incompatibility there.
have you ever taken have you ever put a single spore germination to grain? Like say you were to like get two single
Yes.
spore germinations,
Yeah.
find out they're compatible, and then you were to get two single spore germinations, put those to grain,
Yeah.
and then mix it in a tub together.
So I haven't done that exactly, but I have put just a single spore germination on grain. The desire for that was if you want grains, if you want mycelium that will be ensured to never fruit, you make sure that it's monokaryotic, because then it
Whoa.
can't form a mushroom. It can
Is that
grow.
how they make those CO2 bags? They just put
Well, it's not
monokaryotic
exactly. They
mycelium?
use a lot of different species of mushrooms, actually, and usually dikaryotic forms. But this was, I think, I don't know, maybe a company maybe using this already. But yeah, this is, I've heard other people talk about it and stuff. But yeah, this is stuff that's been proposed for that purpose. And for other stuff, maybe like mycomaterials, like if you want to ensure that you're never going to get a fruiting body growing on the materials, then you would do that. Or for food purposes, if you want to harvest the mycelium but you want to ensure that it doesn't create a fruiting body
Ah.
on the
Well,
grain
I
or
mean, at that
whatever.
point, it's like I don't know
um,
the whole mycelium versus fruiting body, like nutrients and stuff like that. And
I'm willing to talk about this. This is a really interesting topic, actually, I think, because um, mycelium is we have seen a lot of species that have lower concentrations of their active components in the mycelium. So like let's say, what's your ones that I've seen? Well, cordyceps. Um, lion's mane is a little different. I would say lion's mane, but it's a little different because lion's mane has more. And man, I can never. I always mix two things up in my brain when they're put next to each other. But it's like herasones and erinacines.
hmm
Um, that there's two sets of active compounds which
yeah,
contain many other compounds within them. But the herasones and erinacines, the one is contained in higher quantities in the substrate in the
okay,
grain, right? And one is contains higher concentrations of
like in the
maybe I
fruiting
think it's the
body.
erinacines or something in the fruiting body. Yeah.
So there's
So
one. There's basically, there's one
mhm,
that's the higher concentration in the
the
grains and the
mycelium, yeah,
mycelium, and
yeah,
there's one that's higher concentration in the fruiting body.
yeah. So for lion's mane, people have proposed like taking a one and one, like maybe if you
One grain, one
extract the
fruit.
grains and the fruiting bodies and put that
Interesting,
together,
really.
that would be a more holistic tincture of sorts. But I don't know the exact science on that because this is just all stuff that like it could be proven wrong. It's just stuff that has been seen, and it just needs to be replicated again and again and again for us to actually have a scientific conclusion, right?
Yeah, I guess at the end of
Um,
the day, we need to years and years of mycelium and fruiting body
mhm.
tincture, like percentages written down, so we can just
But
see the results at the end of the day.
yeah, and I there are companies that have done things like finding certain species of psilocybin mushrooms, not cubensis really in any of the
Well,
testing I've seen or
even in
my
like the sense
experience.
when if you're
But
going to sorry to interrupt you,
no worries.
as far as the if we're going like psilocybin and active cubensis mushrooms, right? Like
Right,
there's a bag of grains and you shake it, it will bruise blue.
right.
So that means that's
So
active psilocybin
right.
psilocin in that
So
bag.
that is the interesting context, right? Is that say in liquid culture, I've seen a lot of tests of liquid cultures which have no psilocybin values detectable, right? But then you put it on the grains, and then all of a sudden, once it's fully mature, you start seeing bruising and stuff. What's happening there? Well, I think that's a
Oxygen,
matter
like
of it's a
oxidizing.
matter of the metabolism, right? I think it's a matter
Uh,
of the fact that it has so many more nutrients on the grain, more holistic nutrients on the grain, the things that it's going to use for its metabolism for fruiting, basically. And so by the time it gets mature on the grain, it's sort of saying like we're getting in gear to start
yeah, that
getting
makes
ready to
sense.
fruit, right?
Realistically, what like liquid culture solution's only a 4% sugar solution.
Yeah, 2 to 4, something like that.
So
But so here's the next thing, right? Is that there's a company that's found like a certain species of mycelium that they've grown in bioreactors in vats that are oxygenated and provide the right amount of nutrients, and in basically a liquid culture solution, but just a more advanced one, and have promoted on the pure mycelium psilocybin growth and have had positive testing mycelium, right? I've had this experience when I put the species, it was labeled as Psilocybe hookshigenii, but through more
okay, so
testing,
sub whatever sub whatever.
yes, exactly. So through more testing, we're sort of figuring out that this is a lot of these cultures labeled Hochschigenii are subtropicalis. They
Yeah,
sequence a lot closer to
subtropicalis.
subtropicalis. Yeah. And when I've taken wild subtropicalis and grown them in the same way on a grain, they bruise and test pretty similarly at like I think it's like half a milligram per gram. So like if you have an average strength cubensis, it's like 10 times less that potency by weight, but it's dense. So
Have you ever tried to, I guess, like, dose it out?
um like consume.
Just to consume the active, I guess.
Mm,
I don't,
yes.
you have?
The mycelium?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I've taken the mycelium a few times. 10 grams of the mycelium on grains was about equal to about a gram of your average strength cubensis.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah. Um, and 20 to 30 grams was, it's a pretty full experience.
Recommend not
So
eating grains, by the way. Don't eat your grains.
yeah, don't eat your grains. I do recommend not eating that. Only certain species will actually express high enough quantities to be worth doing something like that with, and
And
I've
those are going
only
to be held secret. So,
yes, and I've also only ever consumed grains that I've tested for microbiological substances because when you grow on grains, even if you are certain that they are sterile, they could potentially harbor some bacteria which might be harmful to you if you directly
yeah.
consume them. So don't do that. If yeah,
But
please.
that's an interesting. That is a cool like concept going back to at least even like Paul Stamets, right? His what you call it. I'm pretty sure it aren't his little vitamin things or supplements you want. There's the word I was looking for. Supplements,
Made of mycelium.
mycelium based.
Yes. So they are
So
myceliated grain based, and that can end up making it so that, say, if you take just a capsule a day of a mycelium based supplement and you take a capsule a day of a fruiting body based supplement, oftentimes the fruiting body based supplement is going to give you 3 to 10 times the active component concentration as this single capsule of the myceliated grains. So yeah,
brother,
yeah, but here's the other thing: is that the mycelium, it definitely should not be. I think there's a context in which it makes a lot of sense, right? It's an easy way to manufacture these active compounds, and if you can do it in, say, liquid culture, then you would be removing what people are calling the filler. And if you can get the pure mycelium, then mycelium has quite a lot of value, right? I also see a lot of value in it as a secondary product that is not focused on specifically the supplement value of it, and more so the culinary value of it. So, like, cordyceps has an edible mycelium. Again needs to be, you need to make sure that the substrate was sterile the whole time, and you need to test it and be very safe.
yeah.
Please don't eat these things because they're areas that can harbor a lot of other
I
organisms.
would
But
like
anyway,
so like not even yeah definitely like 100% not. There's been cases like I've even read like articles where this guy was fiending hard, did some stuff with liquid
yes,
culture, ended up having the liquid culture colonizing in his bloodstream and
yes,
was shutting down his organs. So this is
yeah.
how
Don't
dangerous it can be. It's like
mhm.
don't
Don't ever
play with
inject
it.
yourself with any of these mushroom products.
Don't I wouldn't even recommend eating them. That's
Yeah,
what that as far as that's
yeah,
concerned.
yeah.
So
Yes, and so for example, like the mycelium that I've consumed has mostly been totally dead cells, right? Tested, and it's done by professionals. It's not done, don't do it at home by yourself. Um, if it's available as a product from a professional, there are going to be companies that say this cordyceps product is going to be available uh, from, and the concept is like a cordyceps tempeh, right? Like if you are growing a mycelium on a grain, it's fermenting that grain. And so, what if we find a grain that is tasty and a mycelium that's tasty to pair to make
Mm,
a tasty fermented like tempeh product almost?
gosh,
Um,
tempeh, man.
yeah.
Tempeh.
I've seen Mycosynbiote do this years ago, and he was actually the one who recommended I don't eat the because of those things I expressed. But yeah, so this idea has been around for a while, right? It's just a matter of figuring out how to safely deliver that product to people. Um,
Yeah, and I guess like for the most part, that's a hard one because pretty
yeah,
much
and
mycelium just colonizes. But I mean, when you're not eating mycelium, brother, what is what's
what
your
do I
favorite flavor ice
consume?
cream? No, what's your
Favorite
favorite
Chupa ice
flavor ice
cream.
cream?
I bounce back and forth between a lot of things. But I really like strawberry. Strawberry
Strawberry.
is always a good one. If it has real like chunks of strawberry in it, all the better. Yeah, that would be
My
my favorite.
dude, strawberry. Yeah, absolutely, got to have the chunks of strawberry in it for
Hmm.
sure. It's like that's a classic. That's one of the three classics.
Hmm.
The ginger of ice cream.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, man. I don't mean to like just like change the subject or
No
anything.
worries. I have a tendency to ramble.
Ah, it's all right, dude. I mean, so when you're not doing mycology, what do you like to do as far as hobbies outside of mycology?
Sure. Um, I like to play video games. I love to go outside. I mean, obviously some of my outside activities are still mycology related. I like to go and forage mushrooms and go and like identify insects and stuff. But um, just a lot of art. I spray painted for a long
Oh,
time, and
that's cool.
yeah, I would do a lot of like spray paint on canvas and stuff. And but I also I blew glass for like for a while, and that's something I want to get back into. So I'm going to be like renting shop time, and
Nice,
I
dude.
have a
I
bunch of
looked up
colors
like
still.
trying to like do that myself as far as
It can be
blowing
expensive.
glass. It was expensive and it was a far drive. It was like over an
Mm,
hour, each way to like plus like $400 or something like that for
yeah,
like
yeah. Torch work is expensive and hard, and but it's a very rewarding art. I really like it. As far as like painting goes, that's why I spray paint. Like I'm better with stencils and shit like that. And but
like low key Banksy over here.
abstract stuff and stuff like that. But I I'm not good at like drawing. I'm not good at like normal painting, but I'm really good at like sculpting. I can with glass art, I can really envision it in my mind, so that gives me a lot of satisfaction.
That's cool. So you like sculpt figurines with glass art rather than I feel like honestly,
Um,
and that's just me as a person. Whenever I hear glass art, it's like somebody's making a piece like
pipes,
a pipe or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's okay. So, I mean, I started it when I was like 18 or so, and that's what I wanted to do. I was really into glass art, specifically pipes and dab rigs and stuff like
That's cool.
that. But what I made mostly was pendants and paperweights and like sculptures. Like I like to octopi a lot, so I think my biggest piece was like that big. I made an octopus.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very fun, but it was very jank setup. I did it in like a garage with just a torch that didn't have enough oxygen running to it. It was
Dude, Amazon started in a garage.
yeah, but as a hobby, it's very rewarding, and one of those things where I think after you learn the fundamentals of it, you can sort of just rent shop time like once every month or so and get your fix.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
have to.
cool. It's like
Yeah.
once you kind of learn it, then you can go in. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go bang out a couple pieces.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, you don't have to be spending a ton of fucking money on it if you really don't want to. You can just sort of get your little like I got went in here for
that's
four
kind of like same with
hours.
skydiving. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, you want to stay current just
Hmm.
because it's like obviously just staying current with knowing how to do all the things and stuff. But
Yeah.
like after you get your license and you get your own gear and stuff at that point, then you go.
Right.
Now it's skydive's $30. So that's not
Really?
really a lot of money. Yeah.
No. That's sick.
So it's like, now I have my own gear. Just go pay $30, go up, jump
Yeah.
out
After you
for
get
lunch.
past all the basis of it, it's really sort of a breeze to do it. That's
Yeah,
that's
kind of
that's
like
sick.
any hobby for the most
Yeah.
part, right?
Yeah. You get past the initial investment, and then you sort of can coast a little easier into it. Um,
It's like mycology. It's like that's the biggest one for. I feel like the
fuck,
biggest initial pay like investment for mycology is a flow hood.
flow hood. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and especially back when we were first starting, because there were not a lot of cheap flow hood options available.
No,
Um, I
remember
had
these
to
the
I had to
Inverca
build mine.
Mac 10s.
Yeah. And Verico Mac 10s. I mean, fuck, like, I didn't even know about the Verico Mac 10s like 6 years ago when I built my flow hood, and so it was. I had the option of all wood flow hoods was all the only thing I knew about really at the time. So I was shopping around, and all the wood flow hoods are like $2,000,
Yeah,
$1,500, that kind of stuff, right? So I built mine, and it was like $500, but it took like 4 days of work. It was rough.
yeah, man. I mean, like I guess at the end of the day, like it's a blower and a
Box.
HEPA filter, ninety nine
Yeah,
point nine percent, or is it like 99.96 or something like that?
9.7, I think. I don't remember, but yeah, I don't remember.
But
Um,
anyways, it's a really strong filter. So building a box and then putting in the blower.
yeah.
Some of the I remember like I think they're still active. The Hardwood Flow Hood Company.
Lab
The
rats, or which
the
one?
Lab Rats is like awesome. They're good
Yeah.
people. And there was like Hardwood as well, but
Oh, I didn't
were
ever hardwood.
super
Oh, no. I
expensive,
do remember them.
like
Yeah.
hardwood.
They had
Like
like really nice like hardwood flow hoods and
yeah,
stuff.
but I
Yeah.
could, what I mean. I couldn't afford it. Still,
Right.
probably, I still can't afford it, but they're
Right.
sick.
Yeah. No, the blower
Lab
units are
Rats are
are
similar, and I'd say way more affordable. By the way,
yes.
shout
Lab
out to
rats
Lab
are very
and
affordable,
Flow
and
Hoods.
and they have that little one, which I think is really fucking cool. Having a little,
The little
like,
mobile one.
it's especially cool if you don't want to put anything too dirty in front of your flow hood. You could just get a tiny little one and put it in another room, and just anything that's like devastatingly dirty and you
And I
want to
mean,
open up.
don't they have the one that's like for the car?
Yeah. You could put a
So
12 volt on it. Like, that's
12 volt, you know what I mean? Get a little
yeah,
flow hood in the car. You find a
yeah,
wild, you could do some
right.
like work right there.
Right there. Yeah. No, that's something I really want to do sometime, is take like a battery out into the woods with one of those and do it like in the fucking woods. You would have to have some plexiglass or something because it'd be windy, but
Probably.
yeah. but
That would be pretty cool. That's a cool idea for some content too, and
it'd be
like
dope.
just like transfers in the woods. Like find the mushroom, set your little setup up, do a little work
That was
with
the
some
original
dishes.
idea for a class that I taught in Humboldt. I was Humboldt Fungi is a buddy of mine. I taught a class for we're with him, um, and we both went out into the forest and took a group of people out there, and I did a little talk on breeding, and he did a little talk on mushroom foraging and stuff, and um, my whole idea was I really wanted to get one of those and take it out there and show people, like, oh, this is how you clone, this is how you germinate spores or whatever you do, but I didn't get it in time, so I wasn't able. It's still the dream.
That's
um,
okay. I mean, the dreams will always, you can always make the dream the reality,
yeah
brother.
yeah yeah
Like,
yeah that's
that's
for next time. Just I'll get all that stuff, and we'll do a class.
yeah, man. You said video games, dude. I've been playing hardcore on RuneScape lately. What are you playing?
RuneScape,
Yeah,
damn.
fuck
I
around with some
haven't played that
RuneScape.
since a long time ago, since I was probably in high school, middle school. Um, I used to love that game. I saw they revamped it and stuff. I didn't get back into it yet. Yeah.
They made an old school version.
Oh,
So
got you.
like old school RuneScape is like
Yeah.
old 2007 RuneScape.
Right.
So I play the old school version for the
Nice.
nostalgic,
Yeah.
But they've like kind of like vamped it up to the point where like there's like newer bosses and they added like more weapons and stuff. So it's like old school, but like kind of updated, but not Art RuneScape 3.
Yeah.
Completely, still like that old vibe where you had to stand at the bank and say, selling swordfish 200 to each.
Yeah. No, I remember that. I remember that, and people standing on the side looking for girlfriends and shit.
Dude, that's so funny.
Weird times, man. Weird
uh,
times. No,
but yeah, so
I've
what do
been
you
playing a
play?
ton of Elden Ring. I've gone back to that because they announced the DLC for it. I've gone back to. I started playing the remake of Dark Souls 1. I just love those games. Um, Baldur's Gate 3 was a new one that came out that I've really loved. I was
Nice.
big tabletop head. I loved playing D&D when I was younger, and so that really sort of gave me a good feeling of like playing D&D.
Are
You
you
know,
like?
it's
Do you currently play D&D? I have a few friends who play D&D. I haven't played yet, but that's not something that I would be opposed to. It seems like it's always a fun night, D&D
yeah. I
night.
don't have any games going or anything, but it's something I haven't played in. It's just been like a year or so. But yeah, I used to do homebrew and stuff. I used to like write my own campaigns and
Nice.
um,
Were you like the game master kind of
yeah,
deal?
I like to
I
do
feel like you're
DMing.
giving
Yeah,
off game master vibes, bro.
it was fun to DM. I always liked to play weird characters when I played characters. I would do a lot of like monk and just play like really weird races for being a monk that you wouldn't expect, like a dragonborn monk or something like that. I'm like a fucking humongous dude that's a dragon, but I'm like peaceful and I'm a monk.
That's awesome, man. I
Um,
love it.
uh,
You really could like show off your creativity, right? Pretty much
yeah,
whatever you want.
yeah. That's you know, yeah. I didn't have a lot of when I was really young growing up. I didn't have a lot of like people who I knew who were into video games or tabletop or anything like that, other than maybe like a couple neighbors. And so I didn't get to have like a big like DMing experience or anything like that. So now going back to it, it's sort of the same sort of nostalgic type of thing, right? It's very like,
Yeah,
oh
for
yeah,
sure.
this is
That's
very
like,
cool.
I bought
Um,
Crocs. They're Heelys. They're Heely Crocs.
yeah, everything you wanted to do when you were a kid, basically.
You
Now
know,
that you
dude?
can do it, yeah.
100%. I whip those babies out when I go grocery shopping. Sometimes I'll just go to Walmart and ride around in my Heely Crocs because I
Right,
can.
right, right. I feel it. Yeah, I mean that's basically what I started doing with a lot of stuff. With video games for sure. I started actually just like playing all the stuff I was too poor to buy when I was a kid because it was like a $60 game or $50 game or
Yeah,
something.
dude,
And it was
sixty
like
dollar games. All you know what I mean. I
I
got
didn't
like
get a lot of new
a
games
couple
like that
games
when I
for
was growing up. Yeah.
maybe a year.
Yeah. And it was Blockbuster was a huge thing for me back then because you would go and it was like $5 or something. You could rent a game or
Dude, I
something.
remember back in the day, it was
Yeah,
actually so we had a movie gallery.
yeah.
We had a movie gallery and Blockbuster, but it was like they were both local, but Blockbuster was a little further away, so
Mm-hmm.
I always just went to movie gallery out of
Yeah.
sheer confidence.
Right.
But one day, dude, we went in. I was going to rent a game, and man, they wouldn't let me rent fucking Terminator because I was too young.
I had to. I have a similar story. My brother actually sent. He was like, "Go get me the Matrix game." When it just came out, the Matrix video game came out, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Go get it for Xbox," and sent me to Blockbuster. And I went in, and they were like, "Oh no, this is M for mature. You can't buy this, kid." You know, and it's like, damn. So
Kids don't know about that these
yeah,
days.
no, but
Are
yeah,
there
yeah, no,
like Blockbusters or any like movie store like that open anymore?
no. Blockbuster's gone. Blockbuster's gone. There are probably some movie stores left, but they're few and far
Confused.
between if they are. But yeah. So
So yeah, man. Oh, that's a good amount. Like I was a PC gamer a lot as a
mhm.
kid. I played a
Yeah,
lot. I almost failed school because of World of Warcraft.
yeah. I didn't get that into World of Warcraft. I was that in depth on RuneScape when I was a kid, and then also like I had a PS2, so I was or a play. I had a PlayStation and then a PS2, and I was very into the PlayStation games. Um,
Dude,
but
PS2 is arguably like the best console ever to be
it
made.
was really good. It was
Like,
very.
in
There's a
my
lot of
opinion, it
bangers.
is.
Yeah, there's a lot of bangers. I have a lot of nostalgia for GameCube. I never owned one. It was always something that was at like a daycare I went to. But uh, I have a lot of nostalgia for GameCubes. But I think PS2 was the one that's just like has so many bangers on it.
It did,
Um,
man. I mean, and and like even like honestly though, Xbox 360, like Modern
Mm,
Warfare 2, Modern
hmm
Warfare 3,
Oh yeah, definitely. I was
the
playing that when I
Halos.
was a kid. Yeah, yeah, that was the shit.
Um,
Um,
Gosh, I remember just getting like just 360 no scoping kids and like fucking snipers and just
yeah,
hearing
yeah,
them like yell and scream. It
yeah.
was, but but then also the same end, the other side of things. Sometimes I got 360 no scoped and I was pissed. And this kid was like 7.5, home from school, sick, just get destroying me.
I was
And
very much a rager back then. I was very much like an angry gamer. Like I would just be like, "Fuck!"
yeah, dude, I
Very.
feel you. My
Now
original
I don't. I
League of
don't get so
Legends
mad.
account got perma banned. That's
I had to
hard.
stop playing League of Legends because that's what was making me a fucking angry gamer.
Oh, dude,
That game made me very angry. It made me like genuinely an unhappy person.
that game
Um,
makes you angry. Yeah, that does it. That game changes your life in a negative way. It's
yeah,
like it's like doing hard drugs.
yeah. I had to stop playing it when I was in high school. I just it just made me like mean towards people in real life sometimes, and I was like, okay, this is too much. Like,
I feel that, man.
but because yeah, I was just so used to dealing with randoms, and when you would like try and do ranked, and you would solo queue randoms, and you just lose faith in humanity every single time because everybody just wants to fuck with you. They want to just ruin
Yeah,
your game, ruin your game.
or
The
it's
moment you
like
try and do teamwork,
it's a game, right? If we're
right?
like it's a team game for
Yeah.
everybody who doesn't know. League of Legends is a 5-person team game, and each
Hmm.
player has a very specific role in there. Like
It's very important that you all work together. Otherwise, if
yeah,
one person doesn't, you can all very lose very easily, and it's
and then you have
like
people
an
who just
hour
get
long game.
angry
It's
at
like an
for
hour long game, and it's like you have to just sit there and eat a loss for an hour. It's so bad.
and it's like,
Um,
yep, you have to eat the loss because if you leave, you get like,
penalized.
like penalized even worse. So like
Yeah,
either
yeah,
way,
yeah.
it's a lose lose,
Right.
and you
And
know,
people just revel in
I'm
ruining
getting
your
mad
day.
even
Like,
talking about it
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh, I gotta even think about it.
Yeah, no,
No, just
I was a
kidding,
big I was a big jungler, and I liked doing I liked playing a lot of stuff. I liked
dude. Speaking of
tanks and stuff.
jungle, let's go to foraging, man.
Yeah,
I know you
foraging.
mentioned
Sure.
that. So it's like, so I mean, how are you foraging right now? How's the season looking out there? I
Well, the
live in Florida,
season,
so like I don't know what seasons are. So you got to explain it to me like I'm a child.
yeah, the season and sort of I'm sort of like well, in California right now, the season for mushrooms is sort of ending. If you go real far north, like the season is long, but right now we're gonna be seeing probably more morels towards like April, May. We're gonna start seeing like morels and maybe some spring porcinis and stuff, and
Nice,
yeah. I'm not the best at foraging because I honestly I just started foraging like a few years ago, and so my mushroom identification is like it's good, but it's not amazing. I still see things that are pretty
dude. I
obvious
feel
and
you on
have to
that, man.
ask.
I feel a lot of like people, even like locally and friends, they they see me as like the mushroom man, and while I know more than the average person as far
Right.
as like foraging goes, it's like I don't think people understand. It's like I'm still such a newbie.
Hmm.
As
No,
far
yeah.
lion's mane is lion's mane, or like the
Right.
Herasium variety, like genus is the Herasium for the most part. If it looks like
Right.
it is.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, I can pick chanterelles and hericiums and porcinis and stuff like that without getting them confused with other stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that I will a lot. I got confused with some of the what do you call them, coral fungi. Um,
I was like wondering. So I
totally
know I
losing it.
have
Yeah,
seen some coral fungi, and I was looking
yeah.
up that like, is that edible or
There's conflicting info on it, but I've been told by some people that almost all of them are edible, but some of them will cause GI issues. But there are a
interesting?
lot of edible ones. Yes, some of them don't taste good. But
Well,
I've read
also
something.
again, don't eat them.
don't eat them. I don't recommend anybody eat them, and I suggest not doing that. And I suggest only eating them if someone who's like a mycologist who knows what they're talking about has picked them and gives
Yeah,
them to you.
if you have
Um,
somebody who knows like specifically that you can eat them,
yeah.
and this is like not
Oh,
including like
and I
Facebook.
think I misspoke pretty poorly back then. When we were saying coral fungi, and I failed to mention that the rumaria are the ones that I was told were all edible, but almost all edible. But um, again, this is not advice for anybody at all. Do not go out and eat those.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, there's the red rumaria. I think one person that I've seen has described, and again, I don't know the species, and there are a few, so don't try this. But one of the red or pink rumarias is sort of tasty, and there are a few that are, I think, yellow and tasting.
Interesting.
Um, I would recommend people try fresh cordyceps. I think that's something that is not used in a culinary context very often in the States that I think is deserves its place.
Do
Because, yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever used cordyceps in a culinary aspect as far as
Yeah,
like the whole fruiting bodies? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I've recently, I've never grown cordyceps and I don't
Mm-hmm.
really, know like honestly too much about it. I know as far as like what I've learned is like making the substrate for cordyceps is pretty hard. It's pretty much like you're basically imitating a bug. So
Sure.
it's just like a big cake of like imitation bug. And then it
It can
grows
be
off of
like that.
that.
Well, the interesting thing about Cordyceps militaris that we've found is that it's one of the most generalist cordyceps that I think that we know of, at least to my knowledge, because I don't know a lot about some of the other more eclectic versions of species of cordyceps. But um, Cordyceps militaris also seems to produce higher active components of the cordycepin than uh, than the Cordyceps sinensis, the wild one that grows off of bugs in the Himalayas. And so it's honestly, as a nutraceutical goes, a more technically a more valuable, a more
Nutraceutical? What is
a pharmaceutical that is derived from nature.
okay.
So a nutraceutical would be like mushroom supplements. And and so yeah, it has a little bit more nutraceutical value, honestly, than the sinensis, and is easy to grow. I would say easy to grow. The only thing that it's sensitive to is bacteria, and it's sensitive to temperatures. So you have to keep your environment under 69, 68 degrees, something like this, and you also have to use a substrate. Well, that's the reason I was saying is a generalist was because you can grow it on an egg. I've seen people grow it on just an egg that they put in the pressure cooker. It cooks in the pressure cooker. You come out with a hard boiled egg. You crack it, inject it,
Yeah, I've
put it in
seen
your
that
container.
recently.
Ryan
That's
Paul
like kind of
Gates,
like a recent trend
yeah.
as far as like the
Um,
cordyceps cultivation.
Appalachian gold fungi, I think, and
Yeah,
terrestrial
like
fungi,
Jeff Manganaro.
yeah. And Ryan Paul Gates, terrestrial fungi, they both have done it, I believe. And I've tried it. I've yet to get them to fruit because I don't have like a. Right now, I'm just setting them in my house,
Yeah.
hoping they have good enough temps. But the
It's
temps
cool
do
that they
swing that.
people so for people who don't really know how to grow cordyceps, I guess I could give you a little as far as what they like it a little colder. So there's a
Yeah, they
lot of
like
people
cold.
who use
Yeah,
a mini fridge
a
or like
mini
a
fridge.
wine
Yeah,
chiller with like a glass front, and they do a lot of like cordyceps cultivation in there.
yeah.
Um,
And you can just they do need light. They're
and I think that's a
phototropic.
cool thing to like bring up as far as like there's a lot of people who are under the assumption that like only like mushrooms only grow in like hot and humid
Mm-hmm.
climates, whereas like uh for the most part like a lot of like the quote unquote they're all important in my eyes, but the morels, the
Mm-hmm.
chanterelles, the mushrooms that have a symbiotic relationship with tree roots and just the natural system of soil actually
Mm-hmm.
grow in colder temperatures,
Yeah,
um more so.
absolutely. I would say even a lot of the gourmet mushrooms that we grow, like
Blue
oysters,
oysters.
shiitake, all this, lion's mane, they develop even at towards the lower end of the growth boundary, the coldest end. they develop the best fruiting bodies around here because they grow at a slower rate and develop thicker fruiting bodies that are meatier and don't spoil as quickly. And so I like growing oysters down to like 45, 50 degrees, something like this, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
45, 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And then is that like fruiting temperatures you're talking
Yeah.
about?
That's fruiting temperatures. Yeah. And the blue oysters will come out thick, thick, thick when you do that. But yeah, so colder climates are really, really, really well geared to grow gourmet mushrooms because it's easier to heat than it is to cool. So that's something I've experienced. I grew gourmet mushrooms in Stockton for a time, and in a warehouse, and um, when it gets 114 degrees outside, and your growth temperatures are supposed to be under,
Yeah.
70 degrees, that cooling bill is absolutely insane.
Couldn't even
You,
imagine paying that, like,
yeah,
electric bill trying to
yeah.
cool something like that.
Yeah, and so very quickly the investor who started that business realized that
Uh-oh.
location, location, location is really a big thing in mushroom farming. And if not, then you have to do some high tech shit. I don't know if you've ever seen, but there's a dude up in Canada. I can never remember his name, but he's a friend of What the Fungus,
What the
the
fungus?
yeah, the dude who has that big mushroom farm in Canada.
I
Oh,
don't
you haven't
know.
heard of him?
No.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's a guy with a big mushroom farm in Canada, and he has a friend who developed um, a shipping container grow in Canada in a
Ah.
very icy space. And this man grows year round in a shipping container because he has a heat, what do you call it? A heat air exchanger or something like this. The term is totally lost on me for some reason, but
Mm-hmm.
basically all the inside of the container where he's heating it to keep it the right temperature, this is all heating with air. But what happens when you need fresh air in a grow? You have to take all that hot air and push it outside, right? And then
Yeah.
refill it with hot air. So what his container does is it pushes it through this fluted plastic container where all the intake air and all the outtake air go past each other for a bunch of times, but they don't mix. They're in they're
Interesting.
they're in
So
like
then the heat
plastic flutes
transfers.
that are next to each other. Yeah, and so the heat transfers over, and then you save like 90% of the thermal value, something like this. And I may be explaining some of that is slightly wrong, but that's the concept, right? Is that the heat from the inside heats or cools the air that's coming in from the outside and makes it the same temperature as it is the inside.
I mean, I was even just like, I just did a podcast episode with Spice Bush Woodcraft,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a cool guy, and he create like they like basically like on his land he dug 4 foot down into the ground and like covered the top with like a greenhouse kind of vibe and created like a
Mm.
geothermal greenhouse.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a
And he's
fantastic idea.
growing, citrus and like olives year
Mm-hmm.
round in Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a man who has a house in some God I can't remember, but some sort of towards the East Coast, but a little more inland state that where his temperatures are just too cold to grow hardly anything, and he basically buried this whole big greenhouse, and yeah, you have the intake coming in from down in it
It's
and
so cool.
steeped roof so that you can outtake the air. But yeah, it's a great idea. Going underground is great. California makes it a little hard because we are next to a fault line, and so a lot of places here are in earthquake territory, and that doesn't happen that often. But you don't want to build a structure that could potentially just cave in on itself.
Yeah,
Um,
fair enough.
but
That would
uh,
suck.
but yeah, anywhere fucking east of here, build away, make a
So I mean,
basement
as
or something.
like far as events go, man, do you plan on doing any other events this year?
Um, this year I don't particularly have anything planned, but my whole issue is that I don't really keep up with what's going on so easily. Um, I believe I was just invited to a certain event, but I don't know anything about it, so I need to learn about it more before before I go to before I say I'm gonna
Nice.
go. Um, but but yeah, so nothing really planned right now, but I'm excited for the next Entheogen Expo. Um, and yeah, if anybody has an event they want me to come to or has an event they think I should go to, just let me know. I'm really bad at
Yeah,
keeping
man.
up
I
with
mean, I'm
that.
going to the Oklahoma Fungi Fest.
Oh yes, yes. I was told about yeah. He sent me an invite to that, and I'm for sure going to that. Yeah,
So definitely
excited.
go to that. That'll be fun. And
Yeah,
then Michael Alchemy is hosting the event. They're in California. Uh, as far as what you call it, it's like a home, kind of like helping the homeless event.
sure. Yeah, I should check that out.
And those are the two that I'm kind of planning on going to outside
Oh
of
yeah,
the Entheogen this year, which was a blast. By the way, you killed
it
it
was
up on
amazing.
stage and on the panel, brother.
I plan to be a lot more prepared next time, but I did have a lot of fun, and I'm glad people enjoyed, and it was an awesome event. I think the venue was just insane. The organization was really good, and yeah, all the people there were super kind. Everybody was friendly, super kind, and I saw a lot of people who were just very I don't know. It seemed like grateful to be able to engage with the community in
Yeah,
a
man.
space that was comfortable and it
Meet
didn't feel
some old.
sketch.
It's like that's kind of like a weird, sentence to say, but like to meet some old friends for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. Meet some old friends for the first time. It really is something that happens a lot in this community because we are all sort of people who know each other for maybe up to like years, many years over Instagram and have just never even seen each other's face.
They don't even necessarily know their first name. You
Right,
know?
right, right. Some
Um,
people much more guarded about that than others, but yeah,
and that's understandable.
it's totally understandable. Yeah.
There's um, I'd like to I have some like future podcast guests that are like more of like the underground scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a cool. It'll be a cool thing to like they're getting on, but they're covering their faces, and it almost
Right,
feels like those like police shows where like they do the voice changer and they stay anonymous.
right, right. Yeah,
But it'll be
that's
cool,
funny.
cool to just get to know both sides of the things. And I think,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, man. But do you have any like? So what's up with your future genetic projects? Are there any like, or is there a couple that you're excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Khmer Kong I released a while ago. That's the Avery's albino squat crossed with Makilla gorilla, and that one's just great. It's very chunky, fully albino, very dense with a nice cap, um, and just an absolute bag killer. It loves low CO2 or
This
high
guy
CO2
over here,
environments.
bad guy over here.
Either ones, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been trying out the micropose tubs. I like those. I've been messing with those a little bit. So I do both, but yeah, I'm getting spore print packages going, and
Nice,
then we got some
dude. You
LC
should like
boxes coming up.
put your QR code kind of up to the screen.
Check it out, guys.
Check it out if you guys want.
Let's see.
Mr. Wumbo does great work. He's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
passionate about it. I think that's why I also like you wanted you on the podcast. It's this is about passion, right? I want to get to know you outside of Myco, but it's also like you care about your work. You're not just here
Yeah.
for the cash grab, so to speak.
No, and yeah, and it's like as people sort of, I've been I've been around in sort of the Instagram community with genetics for a long time now, and I've sort of seen a lot of what is good and what is bad to do. So that sort of helps guide my ethics and
Yeah, I mean, but
how I do
so
it.
the whole like good and
Um,
bad, right? At the end of the
good
day,
and bad. Yes.
anybody can do whatever they want, and
Right.
just because I don't agree with it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
No,
That's just
absolutely.
my opinion on
My
how I feel.
yes, my moralistic sort of good and bad. But yes, my it's relative to me. But yes, it's things that are upsetting to people and things that are more kosher with everybody, that I've learned over the time. And I think a lot of people are sort of gonna have to sort of get involved with because yeah, you can do whatever you want. But I think in the genetics community, the way that you work your
There's a lot of
genetics
people
is
out
very
there who,
important.
don't work their own genetics, right?
Yes.
There's definitely people who you can, expand cultures, and,
Right.
it's kind of like secondhand sales, but
Right. And the only reason I really have a problem with that in most instances, or in some instances, is just because um if someone is selling something in that way, there's really no way that they know how it's going to run. And if they have done something, something has happened, it got stressed, something whatever in the process, and they give these genetics to someone else, and then that person has a bad time, and they go and they say, Avalanche fucking sucks. It never grows right for me. Blah 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 blah. Then that's my baby that they're upset about, right? And they might
correct.
not
Yeah.
come to me to get the culture that runs properly. So either way, that's really the main issue I have with it. But other than that, I don't really care. It's not a like a you can't have this. I don't want anybody. It's more
Yeah.
just like a please work on a culture until it becomes something a little more unique. Until you've isolated it further than what it's already at a little
Just give
more,
credit where credit is due. I mean,
or just
even
give
at the
credit.
end of
Yeah,
the day, if somebody's like, I would like,
yeah, just
if somebody was
link to
offering
me or
genetics and
whatever.
they were being like, they said, freaking, this culture's from Wumbo Myco, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah, and
simple as
somebody
that.
bought it at a hiked up price that, I mean, I don't even know, you know what I mean? It's like, you can't even, it's like, arguably can't even be mad about that because,
Yeah.
but I guess you can as well.
No, I mean some people will be. I don't care about that. As long as someone credits me, that it's totally fine. And but yeah,
Which,
it's really with me. It's all about just sort of the principle of it and seeing like, does this person put in work into the culture? Do they give a shit about it? Do they? And that's why they're selling it because they like this culture. They think people will like it, or are they just selling it because it's just another thing to tick off a box on their website so
yeah.
they can have another $40
I
item
guess
to
you could
sell or
see
something.
like there's the whole fad of things, through the years. You and I have been in the community for a
Mm-hmm.
nice, amount of time. So, it's like you can see what's trending, and what's trending has like changed,
Yeah,
arguably every year, something new
absolutely.
and exciting. And I feel like 2024 for me, and feels like the year of like exotics. Uh,
Yeah, I'm getting very into that as well. I've always loved pancyans. I've always loved subtropicalis and stuff like this. Um, but I've never really put a lot of effort into researching them that much as far as like the growth
same,
goes.
man.
And so yeah, this is probably the year that I'm going to be playing around with that a lot more. The subtropicalis especially. I have a wild culture from Mexico that has just performed so well. It even fruited in bag. It didn't
I
fruit
mean, you've
an
been
amazing amount of mushrooms,
messing
but
with Tampanensis.
a long
Uh,
time.
so Tampanensis is like an exotic, and I think
Yeah.
Tampanensis is 100% my favorite
Ah,
like mushroom
nice. Mm-hmm.
ever, hands down.
Yeah, I love it. They have a very unique smell that I love that is different than
Reminds
cubensis.
me, it's like wet walnut.
Yeah, yeah, wet walnut. I get a little bit of a cucumbery affect from it.
Hello, who is this?
This is Morchella.
Hello,
Um,
Marcella.
Morchella canis. She was found at Pollock Pines in California when
Oh,
we were foraging for morels.
so
Um,
cute.
and she was 3 weeks old when I found her.
So it makes her name makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was fitting. I found her with mycozine and Stabbin' McDabbin, and yeah,
Nice.
we were all out there foraging.
That's
But
that's cool, man. So how old is she? How old is she?
she's like 9 months old now. She is. I took her DNA, and I think it's a American Eskimo mix. So she's like mostly American Eskimo dog, and she's got some. She's
You
barking to get out.
got something
She's
to say.
Yeah, she's got some other stuff in there like Shih Tzu and toy poodle and stuff like that. But I think mostly American Eskimo. Really cute dog, adorable. She's just very vocal. She's very vocal. Uh,
That's okay. I
it's
mean,
fine.
sometimes you gotta express what you gotta express how you're feeling. Don't want to
Yeah,
bottle all that stuff up, man. That's unhealthy.
no, no. Her
Be
real
more like
name,
Marcella.
yeah,
And I'm not saying you. I'm
be
saying everybody.
vocal. Everybody should
Every
be vocal. No, I totally agree. But yeah, no, her main issue really right now that I have to train her out of is the being too like bitey, and that's easy. She's just a puppy, so with age that will help.
yeah, a little
Uh,
teething and all that
mhm.
stuff.
Oh, give me a can I just take 1 second to grab some water and be right
Yeah,
back?
absolutely, bud.
Thank
No
you.
problem. So, guys, this is awesome. Man with the plan over here. I need some water myself.
Yeah, got a
Take a
little
little,
cotton mouth. So I just wanted to show I'm doing a new run of shirts.
Oh shit!
These are embroidered shirts. This is my Khmer Kong design,
Wow.
um, and they're embroidered and tie dyed. And I'll be putting them up on my website, but because I already have these, I have these fulfilled from another company that does like drop shipping or whatever. But I wanted to get a bunch in
Yeah.
my hands so that I could actually get them to the people, get them out for free and stuff. Um, I had these hand embroidered by a dude that's local, and it's I'm really excited about them. So yeah,
Man,
I just
sick. When are
go
you
to the
dropping
website.
that? So, like, I guess
Uh,
also this is a good way to transition into like, how can we find you, Wumbo?
yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Wumbo_Myco. On Instagram, that's me. I also have a backup account, Wumbo Myco 2. Um, you should also check out Magic Noodle Company, which is a psychedelic ramen company.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
So that's where you can find me. You can find me on www.wumbogenetics.com. Um, and my Patreon is Patreon, www.patreon /WumboMyco. So
And for viewers,
yes, yes, sir. That looks
there's
odd. Yeah.
like nice, delicious ramen from our friend Wumbo.
Yes, sir. They are gluten free. They have millet noodles, and they have 5 grams of freeze dried sclerotia inside of them, containing a total of 20 milligrams of psilocybin.
I don't know what he's talking about as far as that's concerned, but we definitely got some noodles and delicious uh
Yeah, they don't contain any
seasonings.
psilocybin. That's obviously a joke.
Definitely not.
That's all that's in the
But
package
um
is your noodles.
and you know, you got, yeah, of course, you got your noodles, your pack, you got your noodles, your spice packet,
You can add whatever you want into it, though. This is something
and
that I think everybody should add some
your
gourmet
other spice
mushrooms.
packet.
Yeah, your other spice packet. Somebody should add gourmet mushrooms or something into it. I think that would be great. It's something I'm going to try and do. In fact, I don't have a set date for it, but the Lotus Church in Oakland. I'll be taking a trip out to Oakland to go and show off.
The
Um,
Lotus Church, is that Silo Bay trip?
Silo Bay Trip. It's the new church that's opened up recently in Oakland, and we will be doing a taste testing with just gourmet mushrooms. We'll be having a friend cater gourmet mushrooms that I'll have freeze dried. We'll have different cups, with say like oyster mushrooms, lion's mane, chestnut mushrooms, stuff like that.
What
And
are some of your favorite gourmet mushrooms?
favorite gourmet mushroom is maitake for sure. As far as just because it's a general love, like it's easier to get than a lot of the other like foraged mushrooms. Porcini is delicious. It has a texture like a potato, and a taste like steak. Right, so it's
What?
like
That
steak and
sounds,
potatoes together.
yeah.
Um,
That's like the best
it's
thing ever.
yeah, it's nice and soft and a little bit mushy, but it has a firm outside to it, and then it has a nice like meaty sort of smoky flavor to it. Um, the morels are also great. A little bit buttery, a little bit steak like, and just real flavorful. Um, and I think ones that, like I said, the cordyceps. I've cooked with them. I've deep fried the cordyceps, and those came out like what would I describe them as? I think
The
popcorn
potato stick?
shrimp. They were almost like popcorn shrimp or popcorn chicken. They had that
Interesting.
chew to them that was very like meat like and delicious. Um,
For some reason, so yeah, like I recently got cordyceps for the first time through a little package in
mm-hmm,
the Oklahoma Fungi
mm-hmm.
Festival. He Jacob sent me over a little package when he was on the Funcast.
Right.
There was some cordyceps in there, and for some reason, I was like, when I took them out, they were spongier than I kind of expected.
Yeah.
More so, it was like I kind of expected it to be kind of like coral
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, but it's kind of cool. Um,
Yeah, they're a very strange texture. They have
how
an
would you
interesting
cook your
flavor.
maitake?
Maitake, I like to chop up into chunks, roughly like that big around. And I cook it down with nothing in the pan at first. I heat the pan over like a medium heat, let it start sweating, and then I'll throw in, after it's like sweated out a lot of its moisture, I'll throw in like a tablespoon or two of butter, let that really saute up in the butter, add in garlic, onions, a lot of pepper, a lot of black pepper. I love black pepper on
Mm,
mushrooms, and a little bit of salt, and pretty much just that. It can go in any dish. Like I can put that in anything. I can put it in a soup, a stir fry, fucking anything, and it
yeah,
will come out
fucking A.
delicious. Yeah,
Butter,
an
salt, pepper.
omelet. Yeah.
If it don't make it better, it probably wasn't meant to be like eaten.
Garlic. That's
Oh,
really the one.
yeah.
Garlic, onions, butter,
Garlic,
salt, and pepper. Those are the holy.
and
Yeah,
onion. I'm gonna go with
yeah.
onion, garlic, butter, salt, pepper
Can't live without them. All right, hold on. I
as a
gotta.
bare minimum.
Yeah,
It's all good, bud. Actually,
we're gonna wrap this up.
um, yeah, as you say, maybe wrap this up. Wanted to say thanks for coming on the cast, man, and
Absolutely, dude.
I'd love to have you on again for sure. Get to maybe see some of the future projects and what's just going on, and I can't wait to see you at the Oklahoma Fungi Fest.
Yes, sir. It'll be fun to see you there. I'll talk to Jacob a little bit more about, if I can get involved in any ways, and we'll see what all I'll be doing there. But at the very minimum, I will be attending as a guest, just to see,
Yeah,
just
bro,
to
that's the way I'm
come
just
and
attending as a
check
guest
everything.
myself.
Yeah. And so I'm very excited to go. Very excited to be a part of the community.
Heck yeah,
It's
man. And
fun.
you're doing a lot of work and we really appreciate it. And we see it. You see the passion through all of your work. So yeah, thanks for everything that you do, brother. And thanks for taking the time out of your day to be on the cast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and everything you do.
Thanks, bud. All right, now, well, you have a nice rest of your day.
You too. All right.
See you
I'll
later,
see you.
buddy.
Bye.